I will just let them describe it. But basically, you're a moron if you don't believe the wildfires were the result of climate change.
The likes of DEI or whatever the new Republican thing is on any given basis is simply a misdirection away from the actual reasons as to why anthropogenic climate change is accelerating these extreme weather events.
It makes me furious. It really does. Now, presumably what's going on in LA is all because you have a Democratic governor, a Democratic mayor, but then they're going to have to explain why we've had all this terrible flooding and other disasters.
This isn't the Bernie Sanders of 2016, the one that I just talked to Rich still to this day. Just late last year, was talking to some random person in the street, and we were talking about healthcare, and they were on the left, and they could see that I was feeling, what they were saying, and they were like, "Hey, did you like Bernie Sanders of 2016?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." I said, "I like Trump and Sanders of 2016. 2020, not as much. It wasn't as special, but Bernie Sanders of 2016 special." This is Bernie Sanders, Tim Cass doing a reaction to it on Tim Pool's show. And this isn't the same Bernie that I liked. So let's go back to Tim Cass on Tim Cass IRL with reacting to Hasan Piker in Bernie Sanders' interview.
All across this country. You got to be a moron not to understand that climate change does not give a damn whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. It is real.
They had record rainfall earlier this year.
Simply an attempt to deflate attention, much needed attention.
Can I just pause to point out there's a giant red fist in Bernie's office?
Yeah, he's a communist.
Yeah.
It's a straight up communist symbol.
Yeah. Right. That for people to understand, the red salute, the red fist, is akin to the Roman salute, which was used by the Nazis. For whatever reason, schools just don't demonize the communists the same way. This society, I mean, I know why we demonize Nazis. Yeah. I think we should also rightly demonize communists, but sure, whatever.
Why climate change is causing devastating problems in LA.
Stick around to the end. I'm going to talk about why I disagree with that, with Tim Pool. It doesn't bother me anymore. I've done this take before on my previous channel. I don't know if you haven't seen it. This is, stick around for that. I'm going to do this take where I disagree. I'm not concerned about the red fist. It's really more about what does the person mean with the red fist. And I'll let you know after we finish this clip.
Throughout our country, my small state of Vermont, in the last number of years has been hit time and again. Floods which have wreaked havoc for hundreds and hundreds of homeowners, small business people, our state capital.
I'm sorry, I got to stop him. You know what this is? These are guys standing on the side of the road holding a sign saying the end is nigh. Give me $10. It's idiots.
Yeah, I think the thing about climate change, right? So the theory is that the climate's changing, right? When in history is the climate never, isn't that just normal? Like the climate does change. The question really is it stuff that we're doing, right? And I don't know that the science is.
Is that Daniel Negreanu? Who's that? Is that the poker player, dude? I used to watch poker back in the day. He didn't have a beard when I was watching him. Who is that? Raymond? Oh, no, it's Raymond. Oh no, it is. That's Daniel Negreanu. Oh, I used to play poker. We are completely off the rails. I'm going to bring it back, but that's kind of the point of this. I used to play poker online. So I was down on my luck for a while. And I got a job as a bell attendant in Dearborn, Michigan, at the Hyatt in Dearborn, Michigan. I was out there, man. I actually liked Dearborn. It was cool out there. I didn't live in Dearborn, but I worked out there. I did a radio show. I did a hip hop radio show in Dearborn. Henry Ford Community College, 89.3. We are making waves. Used to do a hip hop show out there. And shout out to Origics in DC. I wonder if they're still doing their show, man. They were cool dudes. But I played online poker and I got pretty good at it. I would be playing 4 tables at a time, well, even more sometimes. But the more tables you add, because you're waiting for your good, it's not like you're waiting for pocket aces. You're waiting for the good hand. I mean, it could be, it's probably not deuces, but you could get that. I forgot what the terminology is, but that secret set where somebody has aces and, you get them with the set. You flop the set or something like that. You're waiting for the good scenarios. But when you have 6 tables, I would be in a good scenario and I miss my turn and I would lose. But I made a little bit of money. Then I got out because I'm like, man, it was a grind. Poker is a grind. I was trying to do poker all day and make money on poker at the time. And man, the tournaments, oh man, going on tilt. Maybe you had the right hand and then somebody got you on the river. I still remember this was from 2000. This is like from 2004 or so, or even 2008 and 9. I still, to this day, remember certain hands. Just talking about it right now. I remember my best hand ever. I was on a pretty big table. Pot was like 9K. Some people play way higher, so you might think that's high. Some people might think that's low. The pot was, I think, like 9 to 10,000, and I went all in because I had it on the turn. I'm not going to do all the cards or whatever, but then then usually you don't see 4 people going all in, but the pot had gotten so big, everyone was pot committed, and I was like, "Oh snap! Is it going to hold up against? There's no way that you hold up against 4 other dudes." I went all in. I couldn't do anything else, and it held up. And I cashed out for like 15K. I was like, "Oh!" I remember that was on Full Tilt Poker. That was I don't even think you can sign up and play money on those anymore. They shut them down. But you can gamble on a 20-year-old playing football though. Okay, but I remember that. And then, but I was out, man. It was a mental grind. It wasn't fun. That's when I was listening to a lot of radio stuff too, because you're playing poker, but that would distract you too. But I'm off. But man, and I would watch poker on ESPN. Daniel Negreanu was a beast. I'm sure he probably still plays. I barely recognized him because he didn't have a beard. He didn't look like that. I mean, he looks pretty much the same, but it was Daniel Negreanu and Phil, I forgot his name. He was hilarious. I used to know all their names. The ESPN announcer guys were hilarious. Poker back then was fun, man. That was good times, actually. That was good memories, even though I was down on my luck at the time. Man, I didn't have any kids, wasn't married. I didn't have nobody. I didn't have nothing, man. Some of the stuff I did, I probably won't even say on lives, man. It was kind of crazy. Nothing like illegal or anything, but just it was wild. I didn't want to get behind bars, man. I'm too soft for all that. But we are off the rails, so let's get back on it. Daniel Negreanu on with Tim. I'm gonna have to watch this one. He's getting into politics. That's dope.
I think that there is some science that suggests, maybe we're playing a role, but like whether we play a role or not, the climate's always going to change. There'll be floods, there'll be winds, there'll be, all sorts of shifts.
You're exactly right. And I want to make a point that I continue to make regularly on the show. If there is man-made climate change, it is because of China and India,
well,
both of which have 1.5
I think the point you make
people.
too, in addition to that, sorry to interrupt you, but is that, even if we did everything right, we recycled everything, we did everything in the US, it's irrelevant because if, large areas like China and India are burning coal or whatever the case may be, if they don't stop, then it's really useless. Yes. It doesn't do anything,
100%. And these both of those countries have a massive population of very, very poor people, right? Like even though
they don't have time or luxury to worry about that stuff.
Exactly. When you have people that are that poor, that are literally burning like animal waste, burning dung to heat their homes and stuff, you can't look at the American people who have made massive progress in clean energy and changing their lifestyles, and people change their light bulbs so they're not using incandescent anymore and they're using LEDs and all these small things that millions and millions and millions and millions of Americans have done on their own without the government saying you have to, on their own, to make changes because they do believe that it's important to at least contribute and help. You can't look at them and say, you people are idiots. You people are morons. It's absolutely counterproductive.
I can very easily logically debunk our good friend Bernie Sanders and Hasan over here. You see, the point they're trying to make is that it's not DEI or Democrat mayors or governors. Climate change is real. Now let's try some logic. Which political party has been telling us we must engage in mitigation practices to deal with climate change?
Republicans.
No, it wasn't Republicans. You lose minus 500 points. In fact, it is Democrats.
Yes.
Which state has a Democrat supermajority? Many,
California.
but California. So the question then becomes, if Democrats know climate change is a problem, and Democrats have advocated for climate change mitigation, and then you have a Democrat governor and mayor, and they don't mitigate the problem they tell us is coming, is it the fault of those politicians? Yes. Thank you, Bernie. Have a nice day.
It's true.
And I think ultimately the idea of climate change, if it's dependent upon you and me making sure that we recycle, we're screwed. No, really, like you cannot depend on how many billion people are on this earth to all do the right thing. And if it's dependent, it's like when you used to be going on an airplane and they'd be like, oh, you got to turn your cell phone off or what? Like, you really think that my cell phone, if this is going to bring down the plane, we got bigger problems than that, right? So I think like at a micro level, it's theater. You know, it's this idea that we're doing the little things to, you know, make a difference, but in reality, it makes very little. Like if you recycle plastic, like 99% of it doesn't get recycled anyway.
I think
Big shout out to Daniel Negreanu, man. I didn't expect to see him. It just brings back flashbacks from when poker got big on ESPN. But let's bring this back to the communist line from Tim. And that's going to be my takeaway here. Let me bring it back. Young Nick today. It's so crazy. I swear to you, my takes are completely independent. If I do have a take or something like that, I will usually say, hey, I got this from Young Nick. We have been on the same page, and I haven't even got a chance to really watch his show as much. I've been watching the clips since he came back, but I'm off the rails again a little bit. But I'm going to talk about Young Nick. He's talked about how Donald Trump was running a pretty good presidency from many standpoints. I didn't know his take on that. I said the same thing. He said after that he was talking about the government efficiency. Then the other thing was the Marxists. He said that the right needs to team up with the Marxists. I've been doing that. I'll show you a clip from back in the day. I don't know if you call me on the right or not, but I said the true Marxists. That's what he means when he says that. And there was one other thing that he had a take on that I agreed on, but I forget what it was. But I mean, I'm like, man, this is uncanny. People are going to think I'm taking my takes from him. I didn't even know we were on the same page. But this is from December 10th, 2023. And I've had conversations with literal Marxists. I won't, it was earlier in the clip, Tim said something about he doesn't like communists or something like that. So here's my comment. Many people, including myself, refer to the attempt of groups like the organization that is about the world, and it's a forum, to consolidate power. They refer to that as communism, but it's not the same. That's why these labels are dangerous. What do you mean by it? If you mean communism by you have to give the government more money to control the weather, then I'm not for that. But if you mean communism like you have a view of community, that's how they literally use it. A lot of them use it for the people, then we can do something. So I'll talk about the globalist agenda. Like, let's just use the World Economic Forum. They famously once said, and I think it was even in an ad, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. So they're literally trying to do that. So then people look at that and then they call that communism, but that's not what you're advocating for.
Right. It's like for us, those are the capitalists. Those are the people we're trying to fight. And it's like the rightists, they want to fight them too. So the only thing getting in the way is some words.
It's the words. Yep.
Right? Like call it pink unicorns. I don't care. Let's get together and let's stop them.
But in fact, I think but you know what? I said I don't care what we call it, but I think we need to call it something else. Because we're confusing these words, and it is very powerful because the language is getting in the way. And I kind of went on and talked about this in other comments that I think the right is a little out of touch. I talked about it in how they tried to criticize Kamala. Remember when they tried to criticize Kamala? Now Trump won, so it worked, but my take on this doesn't change. That makes Kamala look like a boss. You're an out of touch boomer if you're worried about the word communism. And I don't get me wrong, I was there at one point, I would say early in my journey, but this is me talking about all this. Stop using communism. I said we don't listen to each other because look, the people on the right are still using the attack word communism and socialism like anybody under the age of 60, especially under the age of 30. Nobody under the age of 30 cares or is scared about the words communism or socialism. So Tim, I'm sorry, you're getting a little old, man. You enter in that stage where you're out of touch. Elijah Schaefer tried to break that down to Phil on there too, and I don't think Phil Labonte got it there either. This is a clip here just talking about this whole communism discussion.
We can't just worry about protecting democracy. In this moment, we've got to reimagine it with people that look and love like us at the center. And I think for us right now, it's about reimagining freedom and this American story in a way that is more revolutionary than what our founders actually put down on that little piece of paper, but instead is the type of democracy that is by and for all of the people of this country.
So that's what she's doing. And then End Wokeness, who I have no beef with, I follow, I actually subscribe to End Wokeness just because it's just a force of nature, said she means communism. And I said, that doesn't resonate with, nobody cares. Nobody cares. This is what I had a thread on this. This will be the ending take on it. Historically, socialism has been used as there's a difference. I think here I wasn't really truly clear on the difference between them. I don't want to get too sidetracked. I've talked about that on the other lives. Maybe we'll do that another time. It's not that hard, but historically, socialism has been used as a marketing campaign to get people to celebrate a dictator. Here you have Lenin, socialism. I know it's shocking to see Americans celebrate socialism, but the real problem is that we don't speak the same language. Here's Jack Post saying communists marching in Austin. So what? There's communists marching in Austin. I said there's people I respect who promote socialism, but what they really mean is a form of populism. It's weird because I try to distribute power to the people. They think centralized power, a benevolent dictator will distribute power to the people. That's the difference between the populist right and left. Let me say that one more time. I believe you take power away from the top and decentralize it more locally, like a libertarian. The left believes that you centralize power, believe it or not, and the benevolent dictator or the benevolent people in power will distribute it to others. And I do have socialist opinion. That's my take on universal health care, is you have to have a benevolent central figure if you keep the country together and you don't break up, that will only act as the administrator and not get involved and say you have to take this needle or whatever because we control your socialism. So I went on a whole thread about that. Let me know what you think. That's it for After Show Carnage today. Thank you everybody for joining. Bobby Ballbags as usual. FUBU Constitution. Bobby has to get a ball. He has to get a bar in before we go. Oh, you watched too. Phil Hellmuth. Yes. I forgot his name, man. Who else was it? From not the, I always want to say the 90s, not the 90s, but poker players from 2004. It was a bunch of fun ones to watch. Phil Hellmuth was a good one. I'm trying to remember. Annie Duke. I remember Annie Duke. Who's the guy with the cowboy hat? He was never really good when I saw him, but there was other guys. Who's the black guy? The black guy. He was good, man. I like the black guy. Damn, I forgot his name. I'm so out of it. When I see his name, I'm gonna be so mad. He was one of my favorite, man, to be honest. Black poker player from 2000 or 2004. Let's see. It was his name Phil? Was he a Phil too? Gosh, I forgot his name. He was so kind of like, he was very even keeled. What's his name? Phil Ivey. Yep. Phil Ivey. That was the dude, man. Is he still playing? He earned over 26 million from live tournaments. He nicknamed the Tiger Woods of poker. Estimated net worth over 100 million. He would get destroyed. Well, he had good games too, but the cash games are crazy, man. Cash games are not for the faint of heart. You could lose it all in a heartbeat, man. You could whatever you come to the table in, be prepared to lose it and more. So if you're coming to the table with 50K, be ready to potentially lose because you might have to go all in. In the cash game, those get violent very quickly. And I mean that figuratively. Well, sometimes literally too. Who else I don't remember many others. I remember Phil, but I used to watch it a lot. I used to know all the names because it was ESPN. But it was always kind of a no name that would win the big tournament. But those tournaments are not fun, man. Not fun at all. What a grind. All right. Well, I appreciate you, man. I'm going to be out. I need time to it's later because I started later. We need time to clip this stuff up and put it together. Take care.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.